welcome back, Fossilized Facts fans. Today we're going to go over 50 minutes of dinosaur facts. So, if there were any facts you didn't know, leave it in the comment. And if there are facts you know that we totally missed, also leave those in the comments too. Remember, hit that like, subscribe, really helps the channel. So let's jump into it. The name Concavenator corcovadus translates to humpbacked hunter from Cuenca, referring to its hump and the region in Spain where its fossil was first discovered. Concavenator was unearthed in 2003 at the Las Huellas fossil site, Spain. This is a famous site for preserving fossils from the early Cretaceous period. It measured around 20 feet or 6 meters in length and weighed around 2 tons, making it a medium-sized predator compared to some of its larger theropod relatives. The exact purpose of its distinct humpback remains a mystery. Hypotheses range from thermal regulations to species recognition, or possibly even romantic displays, showcasing the complexity of the dinosaur adaptations. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Cryolophosaurus translates to frozen-crested lizard, reflecting its unique location in Antarctica and the distinctive crest on its skull. They roamed the Earth approximately 190 million years ago, during the early Jurassic period. This places it among the earliest large theropod dinosaurs to have evolved. Cryolophosaurus is one of the few dinosaurs discovered in Antarctica, specifically on Mount Kirkpatrick near Beardmore Glacier. Its discovery demonstrates that dinosaurs lived on Antarctica when it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, which had a milder climate. Their bones were discovered encased in volcanic rock, which is unusual for dinosaur fossils. This unique preservation has contributed to the study of how fossils survive under different conditions. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Deinocheirus mirificus translates to terrible hand, referring to its massive clawed forelimbs, which were the first part of the dinosaur to be discovered. This unique dino was first discovered in 1965, but for decades, only its arms were known. It wasn't until 2014 that a more complete skeleton was described, revealing its full, bizarre appearance. Its fossils were found in the Neviget Formation in Mongolia, a region famous for its rich deposits of late Cretaceous dinosaur fossils. Deinonychus was an omnivore, as evidenced by the shape of its jaw and fossilized gut contents that included fish and plants. It measured up to 11 meters, 36 feet in length, and weighed around 6 to 7 tons. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Psittacosaurus translates to parrot lizard, referring to its short, beak-like snout that resembles the beak of a parrot. Over 400 individual specimens of Psittacosaurus have been discovered, making it one of the best-known dinosaurs. Its fossils have been found in China, Mongolia, Russia, and possibly Thailand. These adorable dinos were relatively small, measuring about 2 meters or 6.5 feet in length and weighing up to 20 kilograms, 44 pounds. It walked primarily on 2 legs, but could drop down to all 4s when feeding or resting. Exceptionally well-preserved specimens of Psittacosaurus have revealed details about its skin, which had scales and even patterns of its pigmentation that might have helped with camouflage in its environment. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Nigersaurus translates to Niger lizard, named after the country of Niger in Africa where the fossils were discovered. Its fossils were found in the El Rahaz Formation in the Sahara Desert, a region that was a lush, river-filled environment during the Cretaceous period. This majestic dino had a wide, flat snout filled with hundreds of tiny teeth, perfectly adapted for grazing on low-lying vegetation like ferns and horsetails. The unique feeding method earned it the nickname the Mesozoic lawnmower. Nigersaurus measured around 9 meters or 30 feet in length and weighed about 4 tons, making it small compared to other sauropods like Apatosaurus or Diplodocus. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Gigantspinosaurus translates to giant spine lizard, referring to the enormous shoulder spines that are its most distinctive feature. They lived approximately 160 million years ago during the late Jurassic period in what is now China. Gigantspinosaurus was a relatively small member of the Stygosaurid family, measuring 4 to 5 meters, 13 to 16 feet in length, and weighing approximately 500 kilograms, or 1,100 pounds. The most notable feature of the Gigantspinosaurus was its massive shoulder spines, which were larger and more prominent than those of any other stegosaur. These spines extended outward from its shoulders, possibly serving as a defense mechanism or for display purposes. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Shunosaurus translates to shoe lizard, referring to the ancient name of the Sichuan province in China, where its fossils were discovered. One of the Shunosaurus' most distinctive feature was a club at the end of its tail. This bony structure likely served as a defense weapon against predators, making it one of the few sauropods known to have such an adaptation. The fossils of the Shunosaurus are remarkably well preserved, with several nearly complete skeletons discovered. These finds have allowed paleontologists to study its anatomy in detail, particularly its unique tail club. Shunosaurus was relatively small for a sauropod, measuring about 9 to 11 meters, or 30 to 36 feet in length, and weighing approximately 3 to 4 tons, which makes it significantly smaller than other well-known sauropods like Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus. Welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to look at the shocking truth about velociraptors. Were they towering pack hunters, or lone murder chickens? Velociraptors have long been depicted as scaly, towering pack-hunting predators that could outsmart humans and face off with T-Rex in epic cinematic showdowns. As cool as that sounds, it's almost entirely wrong. In reality, velociraptors were a far cry from their movie counterparts. If you grew up in the Dinoverse of content media that exploded on the scene in 1993, you probably think velociraptors were about the size of a middle school basketball coach. Tall, intimidating, and ready to call you out for double dribbling. But in reality, velociraptors were about 3 feet tall, 6 to 7 feet long from nose to tail, and only weighed about 30 to 40 pounds. Yeah, that's about the size of a Thanksgiving turkey with an attitude problem. So instead of a raptor peering menacingly into your kitchen window, picture a really buff chicken looking at you like, "You got any snacks, punk?" Hollywood raptors could definitely be scary, but real velociraptors would give you nightmares while barely being able to reach your countertop. Don't get cocky though, they could still do some serious damage. As anyone who has been chased by a turkey can tell you, their small size makes them agile, sneaky, and way harder to see coming. Imagine being chased by a small, angry turkey that can climb trees and wield insanely sharp claws. No thank you, right? Let's get into some facts that might ruffle your feathers. Velociraptors were covered in a full coat of primitive bird-like feathers. Don't worry, they weren't flying, but they definitely weren't as sleek and as smooth as Hollywood wants you to believe. In fact, modern scientists think they look more like prehistoric murder chickens than reptilian assassins. So next time you see a movie raptor, just imagine it with a downy, colorful coat of floofy owlet feathers. You'll almost want to cuddle it. The feathers weren't just for show either. Paleontologists believe that they helped with warmth, balance, and possibly even mating displays. That's right, velociraptors may have been the supermodels of their day. Imagine a raptor strutting its feathery tail like a peacock. This showing off makes you see them a little differently, doesn't it? We all love the pack-hunting clever girl moments in velociraptor media, but based on current data, it appears they may have been more of lone wolves. There is no evidence that they hunted together, coordinated plans, or had a lead raptor calling the shots like a dino drill sergeant. But don't you worry folks, this precocious fluffy little predator was more than capable of finding a meal on its own. If 2 or 3 raptors did end up hunting together, it wasn't because they were running military formations. They were just like, "Oh, you're chasing that thing? Cool, me too." Kinda like dogs. It's like when 2 strangers at a buffet spot the roast beef station. They're both gonna get a piece, but it doesn't mean they're married now. No strategy, just opportunity. So while Hollywood raptors had strategic group chats, the real ones were more like opportunistic free-for-alls. Here's a real mind melter. Velociraptors had more in common with modern birds than with reptiles. That's right. If you've ever been chased by an angry Canadian goose, congrats, you've experienced a modern-day raptor attack without the claws. Modern birds like hawks, falcons, and even chickens are believed to be descendants of dinosaurs, and velociraptors were closer to them than to lizards. We're talking chickens with knives on their feet? That might sound fun, but that's literally what velociraptors were. This means that every time a pigeon gives you the side eye, it's basically a distant relative of the velociraptor establishing dominance. Makes you think twice about turning your back on it, right? One of the most iconic images in dinosaur pop culture is the T-Rex facing off against a pack of velociraptors. Epic battle, right? Well, based on current excavations, it's believed that it's rather unlikely that these two apex predators would have ever met. The T-Rex lived primarily in North America between 83.6 and 66 million years ago, and the Velociraptor lived in Mongolia between 89.8 and 72.1 million years ago. This crossover in time means that it's not impossible, but it is unlikely. It's like assuming that lions and tigers would bump into each other in modern times, despite their very different geographic positions. So in short, velociraptors were more of a fluffy loner murder chicken than the scaly, robust monsters that are portrayed in modern media. I wonder what cool and amazing things we'll learn about them with further excavation in time. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the episode. Let us know whether you prefer the towering pack hunters or the loner murder chickens.
Yay! Now without further ado, here are your dinos. Carnotaurus means meat-eating bull, named for its short, thick skull and fierce-looking horns. It's one of the only horned theropods ever discovered. Fossil hunter Jose Bonaparte unearthed the first and only skeleton in Argentina, and it remains one of the most complete theropod fossils found, living about 70 million years ago in what is now South America. It was one of the last large carnivores before the mass extinction. This big bad dino was one of the fastest large theropods. With long, powerful legs and a lightweight body, it could likely reach speeds up to 48 kilometers an hour. That's 30 miles per hour. Carnotaurus is the only currently known theropod discovered with a pair of thick bony horns above its eyes. This feature giving it a fearsome and unique look. Scientists believe they may have used their thick skull and horns to ram into rivals, much like a modern-day ram or buffalo. This buff dino took skipping arm day to the extreme. Its arms were so tiny that they were practically useless, making them some of the smallest in proportion to body of any dinosaur. Scientists still don't know exactly why Carnotaurus had such small arms, but some suggest they were simply evolutionary leftovers. Amargasaurus was named after La Amarga, a region in Argentina where its fossils were found. Amarga means bitter in Spanish. Their fossils were found in Argentina in 1984, buried in rock layers dating back about 130 million years to the early Cretaceous period. So far, scientists have only discovered one fossil, making it an incredibly rare dinosaur in the fossil record. This tiny titan had two parallel rows of long spiky vertebrae running down its neck and back. Scientists believe that they may have supported skin sails or been used for defense. Unlike its massive relatives, the Brachiosaurus, Amargasaurus was a mini sauropod, reaching only about 33 feet. That's 10 meters in length. Despite its size, Amargasaurus had a relatively lightweight skeleton, with air-filled bones that helped reduce its overall weight. This fierce-looking dino was likely a peaceful herbivore, likely feeding on ferns, cycads, and conifers. Unlike many sauropods that held their necks high, this prickly character likely kept its head low, browsing on vegetation close to the ground. Kulindadromeus means Kulinda runner. So imagine this. This unique fella dashed through the prehistoric underbrush like a tiny feathered speedster, proving that even dinosaurs had a need for speed. It lived in the middle to late Jurassic, a time when many feathered dinosaurs were just starting to evolve. Fossils of Kulindadromeus were found in Russia, making it one of the first feathered dinosaurs discovered outside of China. This tiny herbivore was about 5 feet long, that's 1.5 meters, and walked on 2 legs, making it a fast, agile plant eater. It belonged to the Ornithischia group, making it a distant relative of famous herbivores like Triceratops and Stegosaurus. Kulindadromeus was one of the first known plant-eating dinosaurs with feathers, proving that feathers weren't just for meat-eating theropods like the Velociraptor. Unlike modern birds, Kulindadromeus had 3 different types of feather-like structures on its body, including simple filaments and more complex branched feathers. This dinosaur had both feathers and scaly skin, proving that some dinosaurs evolved a mix of both features. While its upper body had feathery coverings, its tail and legs were covered in small crocodile-like scales. Attention, dinosaur fans! Are you loving fossilized facts? If you enjoy digging into the past with us, why not take a piece of history with you? Check out our merch store for dynamite designs and prehistoric swag that'll make you roar with excitement. Don't just watch, wear your love of dinosaurs. The name Incisivosaurus comes from its unusually large incisor-like teeth, which were unlike those of most theropods. Its fossils were found in the Yishian Formation in China, a region famous for preserving feathered dinosaurs. This toothy dino roamed the Earth about 126 million years ago, sharing its environment with lots of other feathered dinosaurs. It was an early member of the Oviraptorosauria group, a family of strange bird-like dinosaurs. Incisivosaurus had a pair of giant rabbit-like front teeth, unlike anything seen in most other theropods. This dinosaur was about 1 meter long, and likely ran quickly on 2 legs to escape predators. With its buck-tooth grin, feathery body, and long tail, they looked like a mashup of a dinosaur, a bird, and a rabbit. The discovery of a nearly complete skull allowed scientists to study its weird teeth and determine its place in the dinosaur evolution. Kosmoceratops means ornate horned face because of its elaborate curved horns and decorative frill. They roamed Lauramidia during the late Cretaceous, around 76 million years ago. Their fossils were found in the Grand Staircase, Escalante National Monument in Utah, USA. They had a record-breaking 15 horns on its head, more than any other known dinosaur so far. Kosmoceratops was about 15 feet long, that's 4.5 meters, and weighed around 2,500 pounds. That's 1,100 kilograms. That is smaller than a Triceratops, but still impressive. With its bulky body and short legs, they likely fed on low-growing plants in its lush environment. Paleontologists say Kosmoceratops' skull is one of the most elaborate ever found, making it a true prehistoric showstopper. Its discovery helped prove that Ceratopsians evolved a huge variety of horn shapes, not just the classic Triceratops look. Masiakasaurus means vicious lizard in Malagasy, the language of Madagascar. This unique dino was first discovered in Madagascar and described in 2001 by paleontologist Scott Sampson and his team. This vicious lizard lived around 70 million years ago, near the end of the dinosaur age. It belonged to the Norasauridae, a subgroup of the Abelisaurids, which were mostly medium-sized, strange-looking theropods. Unlike most theropods, Masiakasaurus had forward-facing, hook-like front teeth, perfect for catching fish and small prey. The lower jaw of Masiakasaurus curved downward slightly, giving it a strange, almost buck-tooth appearance. Weighing in at 35 kilograms, or 77 pounds, with a total length of 2 meters, or 6.5 feet, this amazing dino was a lightweight and agile predator. It had long legs and a lightweight body, allowing it to run quickly and chase down prey. Pegomastax africanus means strong jaw from Africa, referencing its powerful bite and discovery location. This dynamic dino roamed the Earth during the early Jurassic, around 200 million years ago. Their fossils were unearthed in South Africa, making it one of the many dinosaurs found on the ancient subcontinent Gondwana. Pegomastax was tiny, measuring only about 2 feet long, that's about 60 centimeters, and weighing around 5 pounds, 2.3 kilograms, roughly the size of a modern house cat. It belonged to the Heterodontosaurus family, a group of small, fast-running dinosaurs with varied teeth. And speaking of teeth, Pegomastax had sharp, curved fangs, unusual for plant eaters. These teeth may have been used for defense, competing with rivals, or even processing tough plants. Their only known fossil was found in the 1960s, but it was mistakenly classified as another species until 2012, when paleontologist Paul Sereno recognized its uniqueness.
Dinosaurs continue to fascinate scientists and the public alike, offering a glimpse into distant worlds millions of years ago. Filled with prehistoric giants like Triceratops, a 3-horned plant-eating dinosaur that lived during the late Cretaceous period, and the Torosaurus, another horned ceratopsid that shared similar characteristics and lived in the same region and time period. Wait, or are they the same species? Well, it's hard to say, but it has been postulated in a 2010 paper that Triceratops may actually be a juvenile form of Torosaurus. Or is it Torosaurus or mature Triceratops? I'm not quite sure. Whichever way you want to say it, there is a real possibility that these two Ceratopsians may just be the same species. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Today we will explore this very question as we dive into the anatomy, fossil records, and behavior of Triceratops and Torosaurus, digging deep into the facts to see what they unearth as we ride through one of paleontology's most fascinating debates. Let's start off with Triceratops. The Triceratops, or 3-horned face, is among the most well-known dinosaurs, rivaling even Tyrannosaurus rex in its popularity. It lived approximately 68 to 66 million years ago, during the Maastrichtian stage of the late Cretaceous period, just before the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction. Triceratops belonged to the Ceratopsidae family, a group of herbivorous dinosaurs known for their amazing facial horns and frills, which also includes Albertoceratops, Centrosaurus, Sinoceratops, and of course, Torosaurus. They measured up to 30 feet in length and stood around 10 feet tall. They also weighed in up to 11 tons, or about as much as a school bus. Its skull alone was up to 8 feet, 2.5 meters in length. It had a large, solid, bony frill extending from the back of its skull, framing its face, and 3 or trifacial horns, 1 on the snout and 2 long curved horns above the eyes. Triceratops had a quadrupedal stance with front limbs shorter than the hind limbs, a robust, muscular build with a short tail. As a herbivore, Triceratops used its beak to snip off leaves and branches that it would then chew in its cheek like a cow to process that yummy plant material. Fossilized stomach content and wear patterns on the teeth suggest a diet of ferns, cycads, palms, and flowering plants, which were widespread during the late Cretaceous period. They stuck to the open floodplains, woodlands, and coastal lowlands in what is now western North America, where the modern states of Montana and Wyoming are, as well as the province of Alberta. This area was amazing at preserving these Triceratops, which is why it's one of the most common ceratopsids in the fossil record. Although their social behavior remains debated until we finally get a time machine, the fossil evidence suggests that Triceratops may have lived solitary lives or in small family groups, unlike some other Ceratopians that roamed in large herds like bison. Some fossils have injuries and bite marks, which shows that it was no stranger to predators, possibly even Tyrannosaurus rex, which was also known to frequent the same areas around the same time period. Now that we've looked at the Triceratops, let's get to know Torosaurus. The Torosaurus, or perforated lizard, lived in the same region and time period as Triceratops. Like Triceratops, it was a member of the Ceratopsidae family. But to date, in the 10 or so partial fossils that have been excavated, only mature members have been confirmed, although there are some samples that we could not determine the creature's age at the time of fossilization. They were first described in 1891 by the American paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh and his team, with the original fossil being found in Wyoming. And to date, there are less than 10 known specimens, which makes them relatively rare. They also featured an even larger solid bony frill growing from the back of the spine with 2 fenestrae. These fenestrae, or openings, gave Torosaurus its name, and were thought to reduce the skull's weight while still allowing it to have an amazing visual display and or efficient thermal regulation, depending on which theory you may subscribe to. Speaking of subscribing, throw one on this episode and we'll do an episode based on that theory. They had incredibly similar facial horns to Triceratops. With the beak and grinding teeth, quadrupedal stance, short front legs, robust muscular build, and a short tail. Torosaurus was also quite large, measuring around 25 to 30 feet in length. The limited fossils we have lead us to believe that they also weighed around 11 tons, or about as much as an African bush elephant. So as you can see, with the exception of the fenestrae, these dinosaurs are very similar, although there are some more subtle differences as well. So which is your favorite dino, Triceratops or Torosaurus? Either way, come check out our merch store where we have t-shirts for both. Maybe get one, maybe get both. Maybe get one for a friend, who knows. But just remember, anything you do purchase helps support the channel and put out great content just like this. For now, let's get back to the topic and compare the anatomy of the Triceratops versus the Torosaurus. Let's break down the most apparent anatomical distinctions between the two. Triceratops had a short, solid, thick frill, whereas Torosaurus had a large, thin one with 2 large holes in it. Triceratops had long suborbital and short nasal horns, and Torosaurus had longer nasal and brow horns. Triceratops had a more robust and compact skull structure, and Torosaurus had a more elongated and delicate skull structure. Triceratops' bone structure was rougher and denser, which can indicate a younger growth stage, whereas Torosaurus' bone texture was smoother and more worn in, indicating maturity. So were Triceratops actually a teenage form of Torosaurus? Let's take a look at the origin of this controversy. The scientific debate began in earnest in 2010. When brilliant paleontologists John Scannella and Jack Horner published in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology, after studying more than 50 skulls of Triceratops and Torosaurus. This interesting paper was met with some skepticism when it was first presented at the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology Conference in Bristol, England, in 2009, since it stimulated a healthy debate between experts, enthusiasts, and even us today. In simplest terms, the hypothesis proposed that Triceratops were simply the juvenile or teenage version of Torosaurus as it matured. Its skull changed shape, forming the fenestrae that define it. Let's take a look at some of the basic facts of Scannella and Horner's hypothesis. Ontogenetic morphing, which implies that Triceratops skulls, as they matured, underwent dramatic changes, becoming its Torosaurus form, with their frills continuing to form as it aged, slowly morphing to include the windows. Although paleontologists have documented how some other ceratopsid skulls undergo dramatic changes as they mature, such as Kosmoceratops, so there is some possibility that the juvenile Triceratops, which have solid frills, later developed holes as they age, creating the skull features found in the Torosaurus. Based on existing fossil records, we can confirm that the shape, thickness, and curvature of the thrills of Triceratops and Torosaurus grow over the course of their life cycle. Studies on the skull indicate that some Torosaurus specimens had growth patterns consistent with old age, while Triceratops specimens displayed mainly juvenile characteristics. Using microscopic analysis of the bone tissue, they were able to see signs of growth stages in the frills over the course of both dinos' lifespans. Triceratop bones tend to show immature, fast-growing structures, while Torosaurus bones reveal slow-growing, remodeled tissue, consistent with adult maturity. Fossil records have not yielded clear juvenile Torosaurus specimens or a confirmed and vetted old Triceratops. If Torosaurus was a separate genus, we would expect to find a wide range of ages in the fossil record. The absence of young Torosaurus supports the theory that what we call Torosaurus may simply be the adult form of Triceratops, with fossils of both dinosaurs found in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana and surrounding regions. They also existed over the same period, suggesting the possibility of a single lineage rather than two coexisting species roaming the plains together. Now we have to address the Triceratops in the room. Some paleontologists argue that the difference between the two skulls are too substantial to be explained by age alone. Like how the frills fenestrae are not merely thin spots. They are fully open holes, a trait not typically seen emerging in older individuals of other ceratopsid species. While some Torosaurus specimens appear mature, we cannot confirm that in some of the other samples, which means that more research is needed to rule out the idea that we already have fossils for juvenile Torosaurus. Some Triceratops specimens also show some signs of mature bone structures without developing these holes, challenging the growth stage theory. This again does not necessarily make the theory false, but it will require some explanation within the Triceratops story. Which brings us to the next question. If Triceratops transition into Torosaurus, we would expect to find numerous intermediate forms with partially developed fenestrae. In the current fossil record, there is no evidence of fenestrae gradually forming in Triceratops skulls. While there are some possible candidates, their numbers are not sufficient to confirm the theory decisively or disprove it. This debate is part of a larger challenge in paleontology, distinguishing ontogenetic, age-related changes from genuine taxonomic distinctions. Dinosaurs, like many modern reptiles and birds, went through drastic physical changes as they aged. Juvenile dinosaurs often looked radically different from their adult forms, sometimes even appearing to belong to different species altogether, just like how it's hard to believe that a small cute baby turned into a mature adult. The Triceratops-Torosaurus debate highlights how much our understanding of dinosaur development continues to evolve. If Triceratops and Torosaurus are the same, it underscores the importance of ontogenetic studies in revising established taxonomies. Believe it or not, the Triceratops-Torosaurus debate is not unique. Other ceratopsids have prompted questions about age versus species. Dinoceratops, known from a single skull, was once considered its own genus, but is now thought by some to be an intermediate form between Triceratops and Torosaurus. Pachyrhinosaurus and Ankylosaurus show how frills and horn shapes evolve drastically with age amongst closely related species. So, was the Triceratops its own species, or was it a juvenile Torosaurus? The answer remains elusive, though the evidence leans compellingly in both directions. Most researchers treat Triceratops and Torosaurus as separate genus, pending further fossil discoveries and refined analytic techniques, with single-species theory supporters citing the lack of juvenile Torosaurus specimens, ontogenetic transformation seen in ceratopsids development, bone history data indicating that they were in different life stages, and the majority of skeptics countering with clear anatomical differences that exceed simple age variation, absence of transitional fossils showing gradual frill perforation, and the fact that there may be mature Triceratops fossils lacking Torosaurus features. Beyond the academic circle, the Triceratops-Torosaurus debate has captured the imagination of dinosaur enthusiasts worldwide. It challenges our assumptions and reminds us that science is always evolving, just like the dinosaurs themselves. Whether they were one majestic beast growing up, or two different ceratopsids roaming side by side, Triceratops and Torosaurus remain titans of the Mesozoic, symbol of the Earth's lost grandeur and the enduring quest for knowledge. We hope you really enjoyed this episode, and that you leave your own ideas, concepts, or theories about this in the comments down below. If you like content such as this, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and pound that notification button to make sure that you don't miss any of our future episodes. Holy cow, are you still here? You must really like dinosaurs. Well, if you do, make sure you check out our merch store. Pick yourself up a Triceratops or Torosaurus t-shirt, or maybe both. Get one for your friend, your mom, your grandma, your sister, your cousin. You know, that weird guy that works at the front of the office. Everybody loves these things, so make sure you grab them, and also remember that it helps support the channel.
Get started. The name Caudipteryx comes from the Latin word cauda, meaning tail, and pteryx, meaning feather, referencing its long tail feathers. This fabulous dino was one of the first non-avian dinosaurs discovered with feathers, providing strong evidence for the dinosaur-bird connection. Fossils were found in the Ixian Formation in China, a site known for preserving ancient life in remarkable detail. Caudipteryx played a crucial role in proving that modern birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs. The name Irritator comes from the frustration paleontologists felt when they discovered its fossil had been tampered with by fossil dealers. It had a long, narrow skull similar to modern crocodiles, suggesting that it was a fish-eating, piscivorous predator. Irritator's teeth were conical and lacked serrations, ideal for gripping slippery prey like fish and small marine animals. It likely lived in river or coastal environments, much like its famous relative, the Spinosaurus. Deinonychus means terrible claw, named for its large sickle-shaped claw on each foot used for hunting. Unlike many dinosaurs, Deinonychus was likely covered in feathers, making it an early example of a bird-like predator. It measured around 3.4 meters long and weighed between 70 and 100 kilograms. Its arms were long and powerful, ending in 3 sharp claws which may have been used for grasping prey. Do you love dinosaurs? Of course you do. Why else would you be here? Well, come check out our merch store and support our channel at www.ff3daf.com. Yi Chi means strange wing in Mandarin, named for its unique bat-like wings unlike any other dinosaur. It belonged to the Scansoriopterigidae, a group of small tree-dwelling dinosaurs closely related to early birds. Yi-Chi had membranous wings, similar to bats and pterosaurs. It had a long rod-like bone extending from its wrist, supporting its membranous wings, a feature never seen before in dinosaurs. This unique dinosaur was likely an insectivore or omnivore, using its small teeth to eat insects, fruit, or other small prey. Erlikosaurus means Erlik's lizard, named after Erlik, a deity from Mongolian mythology. It had a long neck and lightweight body, which may have helped it reach higher vegetation, similar to how modern herbivores forage for food. It had large, curved claws on its hands, possibly used for defense, digging, or gathering vegetation. Rugops means wrinkle face, named for the wrinkled texture of its skull, which may have supported soft tissue or display structures. Rugops was a small abalisaurid, measuring around 5 to 6 meters long and weighing about 500 kilograms. It had tiny, almost useless arms, similar to its relatives Carnotaurus and Nigersaurus. Discovered in Niger in 2000, Rugops was described based on a partial skull, one of a few known fossils from this species. Stygimoloch means demon from the river Styx, named for its spiky skull and the mythological underworld. Stygimoloch had a distinctive skull with a small dome surrounded by long, sharp spikes, possibly used for display or defense. It belonged to the Pachycephalosaur family, a group of bipedal, plant-eating dinosaurs known for their thick skulls. Some scientists believe Stygimoloch was not a separate species, but rather a juvenile form of Pachycephalosaurus that lost its spikes as it matured.
The name Cryolophosaurus translates to frozen-crested lizard, reflecting its unique location in Antarctica and the distinctive crest on its skull. They roamed the Earth approximately 190 million years ago, during the early Jurassic period. This places it among the earliest large theropod dinosaurs to have evolved. Cryolophosaurus is one of the few dinosaurs discovered in Antarctica, specifically on Mount Kirkpatrick near Beardmore Glacier. Its discovery demonstrates that dinosaurs lived on Antarctica when it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, which had a milder climate. Their bones were discovered encased in volcanic rock, which is unusual for dinosaur fossils. This unique preservation has contributed to the study of how fossils survive under different conditions. If you like dinosaurs, and if you made it this far into the video, we know you do, make sure you check out our Dino Store, the largest on the web. Link in the description. The name Deinocheirus mirificus translates to terrible hand, referring to its massive clawed forelimbs, which were the first part of the dinosaur to be discovered. This unique dino was first discovered in 1965, but for decades, only its arms were known. It wasn't until 2014 that a more complete skeleton was described, revealing its full, bizarre appearance. Its fossils were found in the Nevigat Formation in Mongolia, a region famous for its rich deposits of late Cretaceous dinosaur fossils. Deinonychus was an omnivore, as evidenced by the shape of its jaw and fossilized gut contents that included fish and plants. It measured up to 11 meters, 36 feet in length, and weighed around 6 to 7 tons. Imagine a creature longer than a school bus, heavier than a dozen elephants, with a neck that could poke into your second-story window, all while casually munching through the prehistoric equivalent of a never-ending salad bar. That, my friends, is the Brontosaurus, or the Thunder Lizard. So iconic, it spent a full century being scientifically cancelled, only to come stomping back onto the paleontological stage like a proverbial Hulk, smashing expectations and establishing new scientific lore. Confused? Don't worry, you're not alone. The Brontosaurus story is loaded with drama, betrayal, misidentification, a sprinkle of scientific sabotage, and one epic redemption arc. It's part historical documentary, part dino-themed soap opera. So grab some popcorn or ferns if you're in character, and get ready for the ultimate prehistoric comeback tour. Let's rewind about 150 million years. You're standing in what is now Como Bluff, Wyoming. But back then, this place was the Jurassic version of the Serengeti. Think giant fern trees, towering conifers, buzzing insects the size of pigeons, and every few minutes, thump, 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 a herd of sauropods casually strolls by like they own the joint. Which, to be fair, they kinda did. This lush subtropical floodplain was part of what was known as the Morrison Formation, one of the richest fossil beds ever discovered. It was home to a full prehistoric A-list cast. The plated Stegosaurus, the sharp-toothed Allosaurus, and the early mammal underdog sneaking around trying not to get stepped on. And in the middle of them all, a Brontosaurus. Yes, no, wait, this just in. It was actually a giant Apatosaurus ajax. This 72 feet of slow-moving herbivore muscle with a neck like a crane and legs like Corinthian pillars, and a tail that could probably break the sound barrier. Its brain, by contrast, could probably fit in a lunch pail, moving at a thrilling 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers an hour, just fast enough to beat you in a brisk jog, you know, if you trip. But wait, wasn't this episode about the Brontosaurus excelsius? That was lurking among them, perhaps watching from the tree line, waiting for its moment in the fossil spotlight. These two incredibly similar dinosaurs share an intriguing story that is going to take us back to the Bone Wars. Okay, stop laughing. We are serious here. The Bone Wars was a fossil-fueled frenzy of the 1800s that turned dinosaur discovery into a full-blown scientific soap opera. Two rival paleontologists waged decades-long battle, filled with spying, bribery, academic smackdowns, and even dynamiting dig sites, just to stop the other guy from getting the goods. In their rush to outname and outfame each other, they discovered over 140 new dinosaur species, but also left behind a mess of misidentified bones, rushed publications, and a reputation for pettiness that still echoes in paleontology today. Basically, it was an episode of Indiana Jones, where, they were both the heroes, the villains, and from time to time they actually did paleontology. Truly, if you thought academic rivalries involved tweed jackets and mild disagreements over coffee, then you are not familiar with the Bone Wars, a 19th century fossil-fueled feud that had more drama than a full season of Game of Thrones. The main characters, two brilliant but painfully petty scientists, a real odd couple, Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh. They had a real Tesla and Edison vibe, but with more fossils and less electric shocks. Born in 1840s Philadelphia, Cope was a self-taught genius who published his first scientific paper at 19. Despite his upper-class upbringing, Cope wasn't content to sit in drawing rooms sipping tea and pondering bones. He dove headfirst into fieldwork, traveling across the American West with little more than a pickaxe, a notebook, and what must have been an industrial-strength tolerance for discomfort. He was intensely curious, slightly chaotic, and obsessed with naming and cataloging life forms, going on to describe over 1,000 new species. He was charismatic, wildly productive, and had the subtlety of a T-Rex in a tea shop. Cope's brain seemed to run on overdrive, and he devoured knowledge the way a Velociraptor tears through a buffet line. Born in 1831 in Lockport, New York, Othniel Charles Marsh didn't exactly grow up with a silver spoon. On the other hand, he came from modest beginnings but had an ace up his sleeve. His uncle was George Peabody, one of the richest men in America and a world-class philanthropist, who believed in funding science and education. Coincidentally, his favorite nephew's career, as well as the Peabody Museum. Marsh was the first person in his family to go to college, eventually studying at Yale and later in Europe, where he soaked up state-of-the-art geology and paleontology lessons like a sponge. Thanks to that sweet family funding, Marsh became the first professor of paleontology in US history, and built his own fossil empire from the lecture hall of Yale. At first, Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh were more friends as two rising stars in the young field of American paleontology, exchanging fossils, findings, and vaguely polite letters. But things took a sharp turn into passive-aggressive territory, and eventually full-blown scientific warfare. After a fateful visit to Cope's fossil quarries in New Jersey, unknown to Cope at the time, Marsh secretly bribed the quarry owners to redirect any future fossil shipments to him. Not exactly something you'd expect from your BFF. When Cope found out about this, he was livid, and the friendship turned into a feud for the ages. From that moment on, every dig, every dinosaur, and every published paper became a battleground. The stakes? Scientific legacy, personal pride, and the right to name the biggest, baddest, and most impressive dinosaurs. The rivalry escalated from underhanded moves to full sabotage, especially during their western expedition in Wyoming and Colorado, hotbeds of dinosaur fossils and dinosaur drama. Marsh's crew, while digging near Como Bluff, unearthed the new iconic Brontosaurus skeleton in 1879. beating Cope to one of the most complete sauropods of the era. But the tensions didn't end with the fossil bragging rights. Their field teams spied on each other, poached workers, and in some extreme cases used dynamite to destroy dinosaur bones rather than let the other side get them. Yes, actually bone-blasting dynamite in the name of science. This mix of brilliance and bitterness led to a fossil frenzy. Dozens of new species were named, sometimes twice. Data was rushed. And mistakes like Marsh mounting Brontosaurus with the wrong skull became infamous. But through the chaos, both men transformed paleontology from a fringe curiosity into a headline-grabbing scientific spectacle, even if it occasionally blew up in their faces. Although Cope and Marsh may not have been able to agree on a lot towards the end of their career, one thing they would for sure agree upon is that wearing dinosaur t-shirts is the best. If that is something you agree with, come check out our merch store at www.ff3df.com. Now back to the show. In 1879, Marsh's crew hit fossil pay dirt at Como Bluff. They unearthed an amazing, mostly complete skeleton of a sauropod, unlike anything they'd seen before. Marsh, sensing a PR gold mine, named it Brontosaurus excelsius, Noble Thunder Lizard. The name alone could headline a rock tour, and its massive frame, towering vertebrae, and cinematic proportions, Brontosaurus quickly became the centerpiece of Marsh's fossil empire. Marsh, ever in a hurry to outdo Cope, slapped a generic sauropod skull, likely from a Camarasaurus, that was found nearby and called it a day. Now, there is some debate on whether Marsh was aware that this was not the correct skull, and at the end of the day, we'll never know. Was it accurate? Not really. Did it look awesome? Absolutely. Science would sort out the details later, right? Meanwhile, Cope was fuming. Brontosaurus was a public and professional win for Marsh, even though Cope had already named similar sauropods like Camarasaurus and Amphicolaus. But Marsh had an inconvenient fossil skeleton in his own closet. He had already named a similar dinosaur 2 years earlier, Apatosaurus ajax. And in the ruthless world of taxonomy, the first name always wins. So in 1903, paleontologist Elmer Riggs declared Brontosaurus and Apatosaurus were the same animal. Results? Brontosaurus got scientifically ghosted. After Marsh's flashy debut of Brontosaurus in the late 1800s, the dinosaur quickly became a household name. It stomped into textbooks, museum halls, and even pop culture before anyone thought to double-check the fine print. But as the early 20th century paleontologists began sorting through the fossil chaos left in the wake of the Bone Wars, one major problem became impossible to ignore. Brontosaurus and Apatosaurus were way too similar. So in 1903, paleontologist Elmer Riggs dropped the scientific mic, declaring Brontosaurus was not a separate genus after all, but simply a species of Apatosaurus. Since Apatosaurus had been named first, it took priority, and Brontosaurus was officially booted from its scientific legitimacy. Museums reluctantly changed their labels, sometimes, but the public never got the memo. Brontosaurus, with its thunderous name and impressive figure, stayed stubbornly alive in the hearts of fans. Despite being kicked from the scientific spotlight, Brontosaurus refused to go extinct in the public imagination. It appeared in the Flintstones, on the Sinclair oil signs, in coloring books, plastic toys, cereal boxes, you name it. Even in Jurassic Park, despite trying to be scientifically accurate, could not fully let go of Bronto's blockbuster potential. Museums kept displaying Brontosaurus skeletons even if they were quietly labeled Apatosaurus, and the public didn't care. The name was too iconic, too cool, and frankly, too thunderous to ignore. Now we're gonna fast forward to 2015. Paleontologists Emmanuel Schopp, Octavio Mateus, and Roger Benson analyzed an impressive 81 sauropod specimens. Armed with modern tech, metric tons of fossil data, and a mission to settle a century-old dinosaur debate, they launched one of the most detailed dinosaur studies ever attempted. The goal? To figure out once and for all if Brontosaurus was actually different enough from Apatosaurus to deserve its own name, or if it was doomed to be forever a footnote. Using advanced statistical analysis, 3D comparison, and hundreds of anatomical traits, we're talking vertebrae, limb bones, and neck shapes galore. They pored over the sauropod fossils like forensic scientists at a prehistoric crime scene. And the results? Plot twist, Brontosaurus was back! It had enough unique skeletal features to finally escape the shadow of the Apatosaurus, making the Thunder Lizard's comeback official, scientific, and gloriously overdue. What they found was dino-sized mic drop worthy. Brontosaurus was different enough from Apatosaurus to be considered its own genus again. The key difference in the vertebrae structure, neck shape, and anatomical features made the case. Brontosaurus was back after 112 years in scientific exile. the thunder lizard was vindicated. It wasn't just a pop culture icon anymore, it was real again. The Brontosaurus story is really a lesson in how science evolves as new information is found and new studies are conducted. Paleontology, like all fields, is built on curiosity, correction, and comebacks. Hypotheses are proposed, tested, supported, disputed, and sometimes brought back from the grave like a resurrected fossil version of Star Trek. Marsh and Cope, for all their flaws in fossil-fueled fighting, helped launch a golden age of dinosaur discovery. Their rivalry gave us hundreds of new species, filled museums with incredible specimens, and turned dinosaurs into pop culture icons. And Brontosaurus? Well, thanks to hard-working scientists like Riggs, Schatz, Mateus, and Benson, we are ultimately reminded that no theory is ever truly set in stone, and sometimes it just takes a few more bones and a fresh pair of eyes. So here's to the Thunder Lizard. Born in the Jurassic, misnamed in the Gilded Age, cancelled in the 20th century, and revived in the 21st like a Mesozoic legend, showing us that the only thing more powerful than its tail was, well, its tail. Well, that's it for today, Dino fans, so if you like stories like this, make sure you click that like, subscribe, hit that notifications button to make sure you don't miss a single episode. You're still here? Well, you must really love dinosaurs then, so make sure you check out our web store. We have lots of amazing new t-shirts, including specialized Brontosaurus t-shirts just for this episode. Come check us out at www.ff3df.com.